Hello and welcome to Magic in Mind, where today I am in conversation with the fabulous Katie Gerrard. And I've invited Katie to come and speak to us about the flow of luck through the ancestral line. I think it's a really interesting topic that both Katie and I have been wrestling with, I think sort of like in various professional capacities and in spiritual capacity for a long time. So we've had some really interesting conversations about this. So we wanted to share a little bit of our findings with you today, and we're going to be looking at some of the modern conceptions of luck today, and maybe challenging them a little bit, and looking at the Norse conceptions, sort of Anglo-Saxon conceptions of luck, and what we can learn from those, so that we can take a more, let's say, like mind, body, spirit, everything approach to resolving any like negative flow of luck that we can feel coming down from the ancestral line, and opening ourselves up to more, to receive more of that positive luck energy flowing through our ancestral lines too. So, Katie, I would be lovely to hear from you first of all, just in terms of your background, because just for those who might not know you, what's your interest in luck flow and the ancestral line?
So this is not a short answer. I'll try and keep it as short as I can. So I mean, my mother was a family historian, so I grew up with ancestry. I grew up with a real curiosity about who the ancestors were and how they affected us, and learning about their stories. But I'm a witch. I work mostly with the Norse tradition. I'm an author. I've written a couple of books about Norse tradition. I'm also a graduate psychologist, so I have a psychology master's, and as part of this, I researched transgenerational trauma and transgenerational patterns. I'm also a hypnotherapist, and I work with clients. Apologies, I've got a terrible cold. So I work with clients looking at their ancestry and how their ancestral patterns and how the experiences of their ancestors affect their beliefs, affect things that they're afraid of, affect things that limit them, and even affect things like weight. So a lot of my work actually involves ancestral roots. And with a lot of my clients, we will focus specifically on working in an ancestral way. And this has been sort of more and more now. And finally, I'm also a trainee counsellor. So I look at the softer side of people as well. And
Yeah,
that's me. And
yeah.
apologies for being so croaky.
Oh, we were talking about this before the interview, people, so that you're aware that we both have colds. And I was saying that I think that we both, this is like a collective luck, I think, that because we're polluting our planet so badly. Those of us who are sensitive are just, this is my theory anyway, as to why I always have a cold. But thank you for that, Katie. I think this is why your expertise is so valuable, because it's that bridging between different spaces where the results can be more powerful when we don't say, I'm just working with this part, and you're actually saying, no, the luck and this idea of luck and what it means to us, and how we can work with it, and how we can lead like luckier, healthier, happier, whatever you want to call them, lives, requires sort of whole person approach. So a little bit about my interest in that, I suppose. I think that for me, it started with my own healing journey, because I couldn't understand, I've got a cold now, and I feel very lucky that I've just got a cold, because I had a lot of really challenging problems quite early on in life. And I worked, I did the medical route, but then I did the energetic and the spiritual route. And that was so important to me in clearing a lot of the sort of very, very chronic illnesses that I had. So it started as a personal journey. And then it became a journey where I did a master's degree in social justice, and looked at like privilege and the societal passing down of luck. And then I worked, led on widening participation in equality and diversity in a university for a number of years, and looking at the societal structures that create privilege and diminish privilege was, is something that remains really important to me. But as time went on, I realized that probably the place where I'm, where most of my focus is now is looking at how those societal structures have meant that people like me and you and people who are watching, who do work energetically, who do work with sensitivity, who may well, you were saying, like you're saying, you're an initiated witch, I'm the same, that there are woundings around that as well, around the sort of magical parts of us. That means that we need to do some work around that, in order to attract that luck, which is why I do my Amplify program. It's like particularly around that, around regaining our powerful selves in our magic. No, which is ironic, isn't it? That we're sort of talking about luck, which is like a magical force in many ways, and then saying people who are attuned to it actually find it harder to receive it than others in many cases. So that's sort of where we both are. Lots of different strands of interest, and obviously, similar to you, I work within the Northern tradition. That's where my work comes in. So very the lens through which I look at this is Northern tradition. So I wanted to start by looking at what being a lucky person sort of looks like. When we think about what does a lucky person look like, and we talked a little bit about that from a societal front, didn't we, to sort of start with this idea maybe in the modern world that if you looked out at a lucky person, and if you're at home, this might be a moment to sort of have a think for yourself. If you look out in the world, how do you say, well, that person's lucky? What do we mean by that? What's your take on that, Katie?
It's really difficult because there are so many different ways that you can look at what makes somebody lucky. So, I mean, for me, I think sometimes I look at luck as things that I'm jealous of. So I'm really envious of people who are just satisfied. So how somebody's just like, I've got a job, I've got a home, I've got friends, and I have my routine, I do everything and I enjoy doing it, and I can carry this level of satisfaction through. And I want to learn about this, I want to learn about that. There's something kind of new and exciting everywhere for me. But I want to do this, but I want to do that, but I haven't read this book and I haven't. So I'm always living life like it's running out. And I think luck for me is about being stable and being really thriving in the situation that you're in. So I recognize that that's really, a very personal thing for me. And, psychology looks at it differently. So psychology looks at, there's been sort of various pieces of research done. And one of the things that comes up is that lucky is about, if you believe that you're lucky, you will take chances and you will take risks. So that belief that you can do it means that you enter that competition rather than go, oh, well, only one person out of 300,000 is going to win. A lucky person goes, well, I'm going to enter that and this one and this one. And because they've entered 10 competitions and I've entered none, they are luckier than me when they win. So luck is about really taking chances, but that belief is really ingrained. So we learn a lot of our beliefs and our core values before the age of, some people say 5, some people say 7, but while we're kind of in infant stage. So if in infant stage we were taught that we deserve things, we were taught that we can have things, we will go for them. If we were taught that, there are, starving children elsewhere in the world and we need to be grateful, maybe we won't. If we're taught that if we're always criticized, maybe we won't. So the idea of luck in psychology is a lot more complex, really, than we ever kind of will fully understand.
And hearing from what you say, it's almost that capacity to put yourself in the flow of luck.
Mm.
And that might be like entering a competition, but it might also be like going for a job interview or saying, I'm going to take this qualification, because if I don't, I self-exclude myself already from that pool of opportunity. It doesn't mean necessarily I'm definitely going to win the prize, or I'm definitely going to, get the job, or I'm definitely going to, succeed and be all singing or dancing in the qualification that I'm in. But if I don't, I'm not in the flow of luck in the first place. It's sort of,
Yeah. And also when you go for that interview and you get offered that job, it also affects how you behave in that job. So if you don't take it because you're like, oh, it's a bit too much for me, or I have to move halfway across the country and I'm not confident doing that, or if you start the job and you think, oh, I don't feel confident, then you won't do the job as well, because you'll be affected by the way you interact with your colleagues. So it's so much more this inherent belief. Really, that's the thing we work on.
yeah. What is it that I want to say? It's that really nuanced space between recognizing that there are people who are born into privilege, and that's not, you can't get around that. You can't say, oh, this person's got nothing and this person's got like a big pile of gold. That's a fact, isn't it? But it's possible for the person who's born with a pile of gold to lose the pile of gold. But what they also have alongside the pile of gold is all of the things that tell them you deserve this gold, and this is how you look after this, and this is how you do this, which the other person also doesn't get, that go with those things. And so this is where I suppose our society has created, we create modern, they are modern myths to a certain extent, aren't they? That we can, like the American dream, that you'll go and you'll make your own fortune, like the self-made man, those sorts of things are ideas of people who've created their own luck, without necessarily recognizing that there's often lots of other factors that go into are in play with that, and that there are people who are born with lots of privilege and yet don't get that for whatever reason. They don't get that like teaching and how to use it properly and squander it really easily. And people who win the lottery and then it's gone within a year because they don't have the luck processing equipment to do what they might do to make that sort of sustainable. Which brings me on to thinking about what we can learn from the northern tradition about this, because when I said sustainability, for me I immediately think about the Feu rune, the sort of flow of luck, and the Athala rune, the sort of fixed inheritance or legacy, and how those two things work together and how we need both. How has that, your work within the Norse, how has that informed your understanding of luck and your approach to it?
So the Norse they were very much in belief, very much of the belief that people make their own fortune. So they were, they had a real kind of, if you look at the idea of going Viking, you're going to build yourself a boat from a few trees and you're going to go and make your fortune. It was something that was really set in the Norse society, that anyone could be anyone could be lucky, anybody could have the fortune, anybody could create their own sort of jarldom and have their own little area. So, but you also, it's really interesting because you also had the idea that who your parent was made a huge difference to your luck and your popularity and your ability and who you were as a person and how people, looked on you. So, and I think this sort of came maybe slightly with the Greek influence, but if you were the child or descended from Odin, then you were going to be lucky, whatever. So although they had a real make your own luck, go out, like raid some people, bring some gold back, they had this real idea. If you were descended from Odin, you were going to be more successful at it. So there was this real,
same time.
yeah.
I suppose in some ways similar to the modern view of you know, you're born into privilege and things like that, but you can also find a route around it at the same time. Both dreams exist at the same time. But I don't, when you were speaking, I was thinking about the tradition of fostering. And, you know, thinking about, okay, so if my child is born into my family and then they're in my luck flow, you know, but I might think, well, my luck flow isn't as strong as my neighbors over there, or they've got that, and I might send my child to be fostered for a period of time. Presumably, we might think about that as building social capital, you know, that my child's going to learn things from another person. But for them, that would be about they then have access to the luck flow of that family as well. Or I'd go and send my child to spend a period of time as an apprentice or with somebody who is of higher status than me. They have more access to luck, you know, in that sense
and
too.
this continued like right into medieval and Tudor periods in the UK. So, you know, people would be farmed out into better households, but a lot of it wasn't so much about making luck. It was a lot of it about, you know, if you have too many children and you can't afford to keep them all,
You send them off
it's
somewhere else.
spreading. Yeah. And that child,
the flexing of the economic web.
yeah, and that child is more helpful in a household where they don't have so many children. So it's looking at individuals as being part of communities and going where they're most, you know, where they have most options and where they have most opportunities, but also where they're most useful. So if you've got a household full of girls, for example, you might need a boy to come along and do some of the more male stuff, vice versa. So, you know, it's, if you don't have any children, then you maybe want to, you know, create your line and your energetic line, because the Norse had a very different view, really, of inheritance. We didn't, you know, in a lot of societies there is a real obsession with genetics, and I don't think so much the Norse had that. I think there was more about where's the energy flowing, and that's perhaps the reason that I work the way I do, in terms of where is my energy flowing from, rather than looking at who am I directly related to.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting point, isn't it? And it reminds me when we think about Herminia or Megan in the Anglo-Saxon, sort of energy of luck flowing from individual to individual, and this idea that you would leave that behind when you died, you would leave it behind, and that you could, if you knew how to do it, consciously direct that energy to whoever you wanted to. Really, it wasn't, oh, it's just going to go down. There's not like a family tree that is like a genetic family tree, and it has to go down that path. Stories of these beings, the filia, I want to call them, these, like, I always remember the one of this huge giantess, you know, who is said to be the sort of luck companion of a very well-respected, important person, and then they die, and then the giantess goes and she sort of travels across the land to find someone who they don't really say specifically what it is that she's looking for, but the idea is that to a certain extent she chooses. You know, it's not just there's the consciousness of the person departed, but then there's also the sort of the luck itself that says who's going to take care of me, is the way that I sort of interpret it. Who's going to take care of me and make sure that I thrive and continue, which goes back to that point around if you're somebody who puts yourself in the flow of luck, I think you're more likely for that, you know, the luck that's inherited to sort of pass your way is my view.
And also, I think what we forget when we look at luck as inherited in the Viking era, what we forget is that goods usually weren't inherited. So gold and silver and all your like nice sparkly stuff you'd bury with you. So you didn't have that physical inheritance that we have today. So that obsession about wealth passing down wasn't there. So what did you have? You had your luck and your ability to create wealth. So we're not passing on our homes as such. We're not passing on our bank balances. We're not passing on our family jewels. There are no family jewels. They're coming with me. We're passing on the ability to create wealth, which is something that we don't have now. And I think that is where, when we work with Herminia, I will always pronounce it wrong. But when we work with that, that's what we're working with. We're working with not wealth and the gathering of wealth and the inheritance of somebody passing everything to us. We're looking at, I want you, my ancestors, to flow down your ability to create wealth. I'm not asking for your jewels. I'm asking for your ability to keep me creating my own luck, creating my own wealth.
When you say that, to me, that makes so much sense, like, energetically, that this idea that in some way we've externalized luck so that it's owned and kept by the objects that surround us, rather than us perhaps participating in a flow of them. And I might have an object that I really, really love, and then at some point I'll pass it on to somebody else during my lifetime. I'm not thinking, oh, I'm going to hoard all of this and then I'm going to send it to my sons who might not even want the vase for whatever reason. That was mine as part of what made me happy. It's not necessarily going to be what's making them happy, but that actually what I'm passing down to them is, as you say, is that a capacity to create love for myself, to have the skills, and to have the mindset, and to have the confidence and things. I don't know about you, but I sort of feel as if, what's the words I'm looking for? We were talking about this a little bit before, about how we can get blocks in luck being passed down. And inheritance can create enormous strife and rifts in families now, even the most close families. It can cause problems because we identify the objects that a person was surrounded with, either like with them or we want them because we've been taught to want them, because that's, how we pass our luck on. So we have to, otherwise I'm doing a bad job if I don't bring all the wealth to me, then I'm doing it wrong. Creates bad luck in a family. It creates that sort of hoarding mentality in the family. Whereas being able to sort of say to your parents, rather than, I expect you to pass on your house and your car, all of these things to me, to say, actually, I expect you to do your best to pass on all of those skills and the knowledge and the attitude, the life attitude. That's a sort of reasonable expectation to have, isn't it? In a way that we shouldn't ever assume that someone is going to spend on there.
And as somebody who is, sorry, and as somebody who is passing energy down, we can pass down obligations, and those obligations create blockages. So if I have a business and I say, I'm passing this to my children, I'm passing them a fate that they may not connect to. So I'm passing them the obligation of keeping my name and my business name alive. If I'm passing them a house, I'm passing them an obligation that they must live in that house. So when we pass down physical things or business type things, or, like sets of tools, I'm passing on the obligation that you must use these tools and be the same profession as me. So when you pass down an obligation, that energy is flowing up rather than down. So when the correct way for energy to flow is downward. So it is, when you talk about trickle down economics, it's not quite like that, but the energy flows. So grandparent to parent to child to grandchild, that energy flows down. when we pass down an obligation, that child is trying to pass the energy up. If it's a business that's been in the family a long time, that energy is being passed up, up, up. So you
Okay. So
get,
it's like I need to make my parents proud. I need to hold on keep this business going. I need to meet their expectations, becomes an energetic flow back up the line.
yeah, and then the
Coming
energy's
down.
not coming down.
Well, I'm
So
hearing in there, sorry, Katie, just because I want to make sure that, because I think it's a really important point. I'm imagining the difference between, let's say, you know, I've got a set of tools from my dad, which I adore, love this set of tools. He gave me that set of tools as a gift because he knew that I needed them. I wanted the tools. So that's a flow downwards. As a flow downwards, there's no expectation. You know, it doesn't matter whether he's got tools or not, or anything like that. It was something that I needed. Whereas if he had sort of said, I've made this this toolkit and I put, you know, like Roger and daughter on the toolkit. And this was the hammer that your grandfather used, and now I've used, and I'm passing it to you for you to use. And it's loaded. It's a loaded gift. So it's not just an object that I'm receiving to put to my purposes. It comes with a purpose inbuilt inside it that I'm.
Yes. Yeah, what it's coming with basically is it's coming with a fate that's predestined for you. So it's coming with the expectation that this is who you are and what you're going to do. And that's when it becomes an obligation. So you're flowing back upwards because you're people pleasing. You're trying to live out the energy of your parent rather than taking the gifts of your parents and your ancestors and shaping them to your own needs.
Yeah. It reminds me of Marie Kondo, and she talks about if someone has given you a gift, you have no obligation to keep it because they've already received what they wanted from the interaction, namely they got to give you the gift. Therefore, it shouldn't matter what you do with it afterwards, which makes most people go, because we can feel the obligation. So we know that the obligation is there, and it becomes the North is rune, doesn't it? If you think about the runes,
yeah.
The Igbo rune goes, here's a gift, and this is my expectation. And when the other person goes,
and you take that aside.
Yeah, I didn't agree to that expectation. Then it sort of goes, and it becomes something that needs to be discharged in some way, which might just be a conscious letting go of that, of the obligation, and saying, with love, I send this back to you.
Or I transform it. So it's really hard to sometimes the correct thing is to release the energy, but sometimes the correct thing is to transform it. So it's to transform, but the difficulty with these blockages, particularly kind of obligation blockages, is that we don't necessarily feel them in that generation. So your dad's toolbox, for example, wouldn't really affect you, but it would affect your ability to pass energy down to your children because you're passing the energy out. And then your children will have less energy to flow, and therefore their energy flow to their children will be even less. And you end up with this almost this very strange scenario where everybody's kind of tired, and you've got generations of people who have got very low energy, who aren't able to create, who aren't able to find their path because the obligations here are affecting life here. That energy flow is not there. So sometimes when we do energy ancestor work, we have somebody who's got chronic fatigue, or we have somebody who's got other chronic health conditions, and we look, what energy are you not receiving? And then we can go quite far back. We can go, we do this search and we realize that their parent was parentified and their grandparent was also parentified, because when you have this this lack of flow, you also have this need for healing your parents. You have this need for, because if you as a person do not have energy, you're looking for energy from elsewhere. So
Okay.
you're looking for your children to pass you energy as well. So you've got this weird flow that's not
Yeah,
flowing.
like I feel it's almost like a loop. I'm feeling it's like looping back up again. So it comes down from the parent, it hits the child, and then the child is looping it back up to their parent, and then they don't have it to pass down to their next child. So then you get all this little succession of loops that might go all the way back up to somebody quite a few generations removed eventually.
And that's where you release that obligation, or you release that blockage. Or sometimes trauma means that people can't connect properly with their children, and you release that trauma. So by releasing further up, when it's our own gifts, sorry, I sound terrible. When it's our own gifts, we can transform the energy.
Yeah.
Like if we inherit a coat that doesn't fit, we shape it so it fits.
Yeah. We can work on it and we can shape it and put ourselves in the luck flow, can't we? That we stop being shaped by, and we become the person who shapes. And I really like that as a more empowering relationship with luck that takes those things that we've talked about, like sort of privilege, like societal privilege or societal lack, and that idea of sort of opportunity, all of these things, it brings them all in. It says, okay, whatever I have, my luck sits in my ability to shape that. That's where it lives. And anything where it's being externalized, or I'm sending it out and I'm, you know, for whatever reason, is a drain on my luck. So let's assume then that people are watching this and they're thinking, okay, so, you know, I'm pretty certain, I don't think there's going to be any of us who don't have something where we go, oh yes, I can feel that my luck sort of looping back to somebody else, or, you know, I'm not in the flow of luck in the way that I could be. What would you recommend for them as sort of first step towards changing that, towards stepping into that flow of luck and finding it in here?
So I think the first thing is really looking at your patterns, is looking at, what do I do? How do I relate to my children? How do I relate to my parents? And what we also find is that where luck is blocked, so where you've got an energetic flow that's blocked, sometimes that energetic flow will come from elsewhere. So you may find that, so for example, my grandmother's best friend didn't have children. Her, you know, inheritance came to us, but also her luck, her energy, her flow, almost her personality traits came through in like my generation. So because there wasn't anywhere for that luck to go, it came through. So sometimes you have people who are really, really lucky and have got lots of energy flow because it's coming from lots of different places. So it's also about looking at, but where does my energy flow from? And it may not be my genetic ancestry. It could be anywhere. It could be, you know, I may be getting energy from my profession, and the flow is coming from the ancestors who, you know, created this profession, who, you know, who taught me, who taught them, who taught. So you could have a spiritual flow. So your flow may be coming down your witch line. So it's about looking at, where is my flow? And then how do I interact with all of these people that are flowing to me? And then what's missing? So it's looking at what's there first. That's always the first step. What's the picture?
Okay, I like that. So it's connecting with your existing flow of luck first. And I can hear that in very simple practices that people do, like gratitudes, that people do, those sorts of things. Those are all starting to connect in with, this is where my flow is coming from, as well as, like, as you've said, looking at because we're talking about ancestrally, aren't we? So ancestrally, where is that luck flow coming from? Similarly to you, I can look at that and I can go, oh yeah, you know, lots of people, as well as my own parents and my grandparents, but lots of others who contributed to that, and starting to open yourself up to that. One of the things that I often recommend people do is to create like an altar, a sort of luck altar for themselves, where they might have representations of those people or things that remind them of. I think about it a little bit as a Disir altar, an altar to your Disir, who you could see as those tenders of luck in many ways, to sort of start that process. And it becomes a little bit of an anchor, doesn't it, then, as well, sort of, so some of the blocks start to get a bit wobbly or to be exposed a bit more. I've always find when we start to bring that real conscious awareness to where our luck is flowing from. And I would certainly say to people, you know, I've got like, put your Feyu runes on there and your Athala runes. I've got some little pound coins and things on mine that I sort of charge up, and I work with my dragons. You know, there's all sorts of things that we can do to really feel like, yeah, I'm in that flow of luck. And then we can start working on where the blocks might be, which is where somebody might come to you, either like personally, I know you do one-to-one work, but they might also come, you've got a course, haven't you, that you do on ancestral work particularly?
Yeah. So I've been running this ancestor course for the past couple of years, and every year it completely changes and it looks slightly different. And I'd say this year is probably the first year that I've added tools for people to work with others. So it's the first year when we're looking at how can you do an ancestral reading for somebody to find the blockages? How can you work with somebody to release that energy using whatever you're currently trained in? So if you work as an energy healer, how do you work in this way? If you work as a coach, how do we work with somebody to use ancestral patterns as part of that coaching? So it's the first time there's a lot more tools for working with others rather than just working on your own needs, basically. But the blockages are really obvious. And I think anybody who has ancestral blockages knows where they're blocked. They know what's not coming to them. They know they feel tired. They know that they maybe have health problems. They know there's stiffness in one part of their body or another. They know that I don't have luck with money, or I just can't catch a break with relationships. They know where this blockage is. They know what it looks like because they feel it in their life. And whatever they do, it's not working. It's that I've tried this and I've tried this and I've tried this and all these things. People can give you huge, long lists of all the things they've tried, apart from looking at the ancestral flow. So if there's a blockage within, say, you know, your great-grandparents or your great-great-grandparents' generation, you feel it, you really know it, but you just don't have that language to go, oh, well, I think it's because, you know, this happened in this generation. You just don't have that language. So being able to work with somebody to really unpick that and to look at, so you would, you know, I work with cards, or I work with sort of resin animals sometimes as well, or runes, and you look back, you go, this is my grandparent, this is my great-grandparent, this is my great-grandparent's siblings, and you look at how do they feel, how are they connected to each other, what relationship, what does it feel like? You can just use post-it notes as well. You can literally just write names on post-it notes and feel the energy between them. You can ask, you know, I have a problem with, you know, feeling safe. Why do I not feel safe? And then you go back and you ask all of these people, do you feel safe? Do you feel safe? Do you feel safe? And then you find somebody that really doesn't, and you go, okay, what happened? And then you can ask them, what happened to you? And if we think about that post-war and that pre-war and that Victorian generations, they didn't talk. They weren't allowed to. They were not allowed to process the things that happened to them. So just letting them talk, sometimes it's literally enough.
Yeah.
You know, like if we have a problem and we talk about it, we've released it. So just letting them talk is so powerful, but we need to be open to listen to them.
Yeah. It just opened up a sort of whole stream of thought for me there around how far we can go back with this. At the moment, I'm working with a very old wounding from the Anglo-Saxon times, really, and from when the like William the Conqueror came in and things like that, and looking at, I've been tracing my family history back and looking at the one side of my family where my family were like indentured on farms down in the south of England. And then they managed to get enough money to buy themselves out of that service. And when you say that thing about, do you feel safe? You know, you look at that and you think, like, how long was were my ancestors in a place where they were trying to buy their own freedom? You know, and then they went and they became miners after that. And you're like, that's a great profession. It's not necessarily a safe one, is it? But it was safer. It was preferred for them than being, I can't leave. I'm trapped. So I'm sort of feeling into that at the moment. So we can go back quite a long way with these things. And as you say, sometimes giving voice, witnessing, is can do huge amounts to release that and to say, okay, let the flow of luck move through the whole family line. So it's very powerful work that can be done there. So I think it's an amazing approach, to take and to help people, because otherwise we get a bit like, what's that game? Is it whack-a-mole? Where you're sort of like, you go, oh, it's coming there, so you bash it, and then it springs up somewhere else, because as you said, like the root, the source hasn't necessarily been tackled, and so it just finds another way to flow through. So yeah, interesting. A little bit like, I suppose, our giantesses that we were talking about, like at the very beginning, who are sort of saying, right, I'm looking for the lucky person. I wonder whether, you might have your own views on this, and perhaps it's a different topic. I do sometimes wonder whether, when someone stands up and they said, I'm ready to take charge of this and to step into the flow of luck and to go and do that clearing work, annoying as it may sound, I think that sometimes we get the attention of the universe then, and the universe goes, that's someone who's willing to do this, so let's send them the stuff to tackle. And I think it's maybe sometimes being prepared for that when we go on a healing journey, which is for ourselves and for others in our ancestral line, it can bring up old woundings that have been in our families for generations. And they say, this is a person who has the courage to deal with this. And so we're going to get their attention one way or the other. And I do think if you're going to enter into this work, it is worth saying, what support can I get to do that? What support can I get to do it? It's absolutely fine to say, I'll do my altar at home, and I'll start like getting like researching my family tree and doing all of those things. But I do think that if you really want to do that seriously, and you want to take that deep journey, it is worth finding somebody that you trust, someone like Katie, if you want to do that individual work, if you're looking to do the sort of like the magical self work and the ancestral woundings around the loss of our spiritual culture there, then come and work with me. But find someone who, when you go, oh, I did all of this work and I thought it was all going to be, I was just going to spring through the fields and everything would be perfect, and it's not, that they're able to help you and support you on that journey and say, okay, how can we widen that web out maybe a little bit more to say what's calling your attention now? Do you think that's a fair reflection, Katie?
Yeah, so what I would say is, what you're releasing a lot of the time is, so in our life where something happens and we don't want to think about it, and we like shove it down, and we repress it, and we're like, I'm not dealing with that. When our ancestors do the same, that energy still exists. So it's like, you know, our repression and what we've swallowed grows. So sometimes those seeds grow into beautiful fruit and veg, and it's, you know, it's wonderful, and we've really benefited from swallowing stuff. But often it kind of grows into bindweed, and it suffocates everything else that we're trying to grow. So when we inherit energy from our ancestors, we're passing down bindweed sometimes. And sometimes our descendants take that bindweed and they grow plants and beautiful flowers and everything's great, but sometimes they just grow more bindweed. So when you start releasing that, you've got a lot of plant. And that plant has to go somewhere. It has to be released. It has to. So when you're freeing your vegetables and your crops, you're left with a lot of crap.
And you have to know how to dispose of that, don't you?
Yeah. And it's the same as, you know, when we start working on our own stuff, you know, working as a counselor is amazing how much people have within them, that how much lighter you feel once you've dealt with it. But the dealing with it process isn't necessarily something that you would want to do on your own. It's not something that you can't, but you will see more and you will benefit more from doing it with some support. So you don't go mad and start repressing things. And
there are reasons, aren't there, why things have been, why those things happened in the first place that need to be worked through. And maybe it was because our ancestors weren't supported, that they weren't able to, as you say, they had no space to talk, for example, and had no space to do the talking. No, they needed someone to do that with them. There's no reason why me sort of standing there and saying, yes, now I'm ready to voice everything that you weren't ready to, would be different. Having someone with me to do that and witness that and support me through it is sensible, isn't it? So if people come up with something and they go, oh, you know, this feels big, don't think, I have to do it alone because it's my ancestral burden and those things, because it's a shared responsibility, isn't it? And I know we're sort of coming to the end of our time there, but it reminded me that I think that metaphor of the garden is so powerful, because there is this sense of you have to do the clearing fully and you have to do the disposal, because otherwise, I don't know about you, but I've got ground elder in my garden, and you can pull the leaves out as much as you want, but if you don't go down and do the roots and actually get them all out, it's going to come back. It's tenacious in that sense. So you need to know how to clear it properly. But equally, we were talking about inviting in as being the first step, that finding the positive is like finding the vegetables, finding the good stuff and tending to it and celebrating it. And when we do that process of clearing the bindweed, we leave a beautiful patch of soil, don't we? A lovely clear soil, and actually saying, what do I want to put in there? What do I want more of? And keeping that connection to positive, life affirming, powerful, however you want to do that, whether you want to do, I do embodiment work with people and voice work with people, and we create altars and we do all sorts of stuff so that we're planting our spiritual gardens with delicious new luck, and not just sort of saying, there's space over here for some more bindweed.
Absolutely. And actually, when we do our own gardening, we don't do it on our own. If I tackle my garden, I'm not going to go out there on my own. I'm going to have friends, I'm going to have family, I'm going to have people helping me. And that's, or you pay a professional to come and dig the roots out because they know what the roots look like. And as an individual, you don't know what the roots look like. So, but you can, if you do the work and you learn and you train. But in the same way, sometimes it's handy to have a gardener there telling you, you want to remove this bit, but maybe not that bit. So it's, everything's better together, I think. So
we've got open yourself up to the flow of luck, we've got clear the blockages, and we've got get help to do it. Three main pointers. Okay, wonderful. So So we've talked about your ancestral course and we've got one coming up at this time of recording. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share that the links for joining and things for Katie's work. And if you're interested in mine, please do get in contact. I have Amplify, which is much more about the self, sort of you as an individual, and Awaken, which is much more about that reclaiming the, let's call it the luck hoard of the northern peoples and the northern lands. So you can get in touch with us on that. But I hope that you have found this interesting and that you've come away with some concepts of luck that you can work with and some sense of, okay, yeah, I have agency within this. I have agency for myself, but I also have agency to really work and to heal those ancestral luck flows, to bring about the world that we want to see, where we are not carrying all those sort of invisible burdens with us. So thank you so much, Katie, for joining me at this session today. And I hope that everyone has enjoyed it. And I hope to see you all very, very soon on Magic in Mind. And I'll be bringing some other wonderful guests. And I'm sure that I will have Katie again in the future. So thank you, Katie, for giving us your time today. It's really appreciated.
Thank you for having me.
A pleasure.